When you're autocrossing a 28-year-old car, you inevitably encounter some parts failures. In between events, it's a good idea to check things people driving newer cars might not normally check. In addition to checking my oil, coolant, power steering fluid, and brake fluid levels, I make sure to check for leaks or any signs that the reservoirs might be cracking. A recent check of my cooling system revealed that my OEM coolant expansion tank top mounting tab had cracked. There are plastic replacement coolant tanks available, but I decided to upgrade to this Moroso aluminum coolant expansion tank. Generally, if a part fails, I replace it with something stronger. I don't want to worry about my coolant expansion tank cracking when I'm out on course attacking the cones. I went with the Moroso coolant expansion tank because it works with the OEM cap and low coolant sensor. I drive my car to and from events, so retaining the low coolant sensor gives me added peace of mind. It's worth noting that the Moroso tank requires the use of a 1990 to 1993 low coolant sensor. The welds are very precise, and the tank is designed to fit in the stock location on the OEM fan shroud. It's a simple, bolt-in solution that should be much stronger than stock. The Moroso coolant expansion tank doesn't come with a fluid-level sight tube like some other aluminum tanks. That's another reason why having the low coolant sensor is a benefit. The way the tank is shaped makes it easy to determine your full cold level. It's not uncommon for sediment in the cooling system to settle at the bottom of the tank. Unlike the OEM tank, you won't be able to see the sediment building up in the Moroso tank. If you don't flush your cooling system at the recommended intervals, that sediment could end up blocking the hose. The Moroso coolant expansion tank doesn't come with instructions, but the install is pretty easy. It mounts with the two factory bolts. You don't have to drain the radiator or burp the system to install the Moroso tank, but you should take precautions when removing the OEM tank to prevent spilling the coolant. The Moroso tank doesn't come with a hose or clamps, and the OEM hose isn't long enough to reach. I needed about 2 feet of 5/16 inner diameter hose. When the OEM cap is installed on the Moroso tank, the plug for the low coolant sensor sits a few degrees off from the stock location. In order to get the plug to reach, I had to reposition the wires. The wires are joined to a loom on the inner fender, and there's not much length to work with. In its new position, the low coolant sensor wire ends up sitting very close to the negative battery terminal. It's not a big issue, but it seems like a design flaw that Moroso could have easily eliminated. All in all, the Moroso aluminum coolant expansion tank took 1 hour to install. Since installing the Moroso tank, I've driven about 200 miles, and I've done 1 autocross event. So far, there are no leaks and no broken tabs. Honestly, I don't expect to have any issues with the Moroso tank. It's very well made and built to last. If your OEM coolant expansion tank is showing its age, and you're worried about it holding up under autocross conditions, the Moroso aluminum coolant expansion tank is absolutely worth considering. I'll keep putting it through its paces and post a long-term review in the future.